Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the PokerNews podcast. My name is Sarah Herring, joined by my boy, Jeff Platt, who is, drumroll please, going to play the main event today.
Yes, the greatest poker tournament in the world. It is day 1A today. We are doing this thing, Sarah. We've saved it all for the main, as they say. The summer has been a struggle as far as tournaments are concerned, but we redeemed the entire summer with one run in the main event of the World Series of Poker.
Right now, if I'm right, the goal is to bag.
Yes, I just want to find one bag in the 2019 World Series of Poker, and I think I could get it with this kind of structure, with 2-hour levels, with a 60K starting stack. I'm pretty sure we have the ability to find a bag, and we're mixing it up this year, Sarah. Ever since I played the main event, last 5 years or so, I've always played day 1B, and now I thought, it's time for a change. It has nothing to do with the fact that day 1A has a smaller field and you get more exposure that way. Absolutely not worried about that in any sense whatsoever. It's strictly to mix things up. Okay, maybe if I could get 6 seconds more of camera time, that'd be nice.
Just a little. Get that pretty mug out there.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think we're all rooting for that. And to be honest, it's the same. There's a lot of beautiful faces out there, but I think yours is going to stand out in any field. But we're all looking. We know where to find those opportunities. Us media people. Okay, great. So for those of us, though, I do really want to know. A lot of us will never play the main event. Hopefully all of us will who are listening. But for those who haven't yet, what is the experience of waking up the morning of your first day of the main event?
It's pretty crazy. I feel like, at least for me, there's an overwhelming feeling of like anxiousness the night before. You're like, okay, the next day is the main event and it's the best poker tournament of the year and I can't wait and I'm so excited. And you got to kind of calm yourself down. I put my phone down and watched Rush Hour 2 last night. Just one of the all-time classics. It was amazing. Laughed my ass off. It was a great routine.
One of the all-time classics.
Yep. I think that might be my main event routine. Negreanu watches all the Rocky movies. I think I might go with Rush Hour 2. So, you wake up and you're like, okay, this is it. We made it. Here we go. It's not, for me, it's maybe more Hanukkah morning, not just Christmas morning, not just because I'm Jewish, but because, hopefully you're making a really long run in this. Eight-ish days, 8-ish mornings of waking up and playing would be nice. So I'm just super fired up. I'm like all jittery right now talking to you. I'm like kind of bouncing around a little bit and just ready to do this. Let's go. And then you sit down and you see 7-3 off and you kind of can take a deep breath and just fold a couple hands and work your way into the flow. And nothing is like playing a big pot in the main event as far as getting the heart racing goes. But usually once you sit down, you play for 20 or 30 minutes, you're able to calm down at least a little bit.
Until
you get all the chips.
Wait for you hope that you don't have really big or good or interesting hands in the beginning so that you can just ease into the day?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I feel like the first year or 2 years that I played this, I kind of thought that exact same way. I was like, I'll just sit here and fold for an hour and it'll be totally fine because I'm so nervous. Not that I won't be nervous today, but I'm just going to play my normal game, which has not been great this summer. But I think we've played well, and that is all that matters.
Well, it's interesting, too, because I think, we hear this from poker players all the time. Obviously, winning any tournament is a grind. Winning the main event or final tabling the main event is a crazy grind. Yeah. This year, probably even more so than in years past. And then it's kind of the biggest boner that you maybe even start out the very first day just naturally not that well rested because it's too exciting. You can't.
Oh, right. That's so true. And you wake up a lot throughout the night and you wake up early and, you're kind of tired, but the adrenaline's pumping through. So you have an energy drink or something and then you're really bouncing off the wall. So I've always said that the main event presents such a roller coaster ride of emotions. I've compared this probably to basketball before on the podcast. Rick Carlisle, the head coach of the Mavericks, he says in the playoffs, when you win a game, it presents such a high that you feel like you're never going to lose a game for the rest of the playoffs. When you lose a game, you're so like crushed, you're so down in the dumps, it feels like you're never going to win a game again in the playoffs. And I feel that same way in the main event. Like when you win a pot, it's like the greatest feeling in the world. And when you think like, this is my year, I'm just going to win the main event.
Yeah.
And when you lose a pot, you're just like so devastated, like, oh no. And it just crushes your heart and soul.
Man, I just love it though. That's so, it's that, what a fantastic thing you talk about. Okay, the finals. It's like, what a fantastic thing to watch people's dreams just be crushed or made. Either way. Well,
and you'll see some like, throughout the course, if you're lucky enough to play long, hopefully I am, you'll see some horrendous beats, and a guy, all in for his tournament life just has to fade 2 outs and it hits, and you can see it just absolutely devastate them. And that's, that's part of the reason why the main event makes for such good television, right?
So if the viewers / listeners, depending on what format they're listening / viewing on, if they want to follow you and follow your main event run, are you going to kind of be tweeting? Are you going to be doing any like Instagram stories? What's going on?
I think, I'm so bad at Instagram, but I've been trying to work on my Instagram stories game. So I'll probably do most updates there. I'll definitely tweet to start and end the day. PokerNews, of course, will have full coverage, and then ESPN2 starting at 5:30 Pacific time will air day 2 coverage for a good, I want to say 5.5 hours or so. Wow. And then Poker Go takes over for the next 2 hours. So it's a pretty action-packed day, and that's kind of the schedule for this next week. I think PokerNews has an article up on the viewing schedule, when you can watch it on ESPN, when you can watch it on ESPN2. And then when you go to PokerGo, you can find out where you can watch it there. So every day we'll have coverage on either ESPN2 or ESPN, which is absolutely great for poker.
Well, obviously we only care about you, but that's good information to have nonetheless. All right, well, this special edition, our WSOP edition series of the podcast, is sponsored by 888 Poker, and they have a, I think, very small but very solid team, which contains some of my absolute favorite people in poker, and more specifically, my favorite women in poker, especially. And speaking of, one of the ladies, Miss Vivian Saliba, who's known mostly as being a PLO player.
Yeah.
She's a professional PLO player. She came into the game playing cash in Brazil in PLO, but she's been working on her No Limit Hold'em game for years now, a couple of years. She's dating a German pro, and turns out she's in the final 10 of the Crazy Eights tournament. I'm sure that the 888 Poker team is so excited, and she's near the top of the chip counts.
Yeah, how about that? Third with 10 left. This Crazy Eights tournament had 10,185 entries. So to make the final 10, a field like that is an incredible accomplishment. She's third. She's got 43 mil. They come back to 1.2 million. So she probably has 36-ish big blind. So she's got a real shot at this. It's quite the prize pool. That $888,888 is up for grabs for first place. So this could be quite the run. They have not had an ambassador win the Crazy Eights event. I'm not sure if they've had one final table in Crazy Eights event before. So this is kind of a great moment. I'm sure they're on pins and needles.
Man, I can't even imagine. So, of course, the guaranteed prize for first is $888,888. But really, I mean, almost all of these paydays, especially as we get closer to, say, the top 5, top 6, are huge and life-changing. Yeah. And it's interesting because so Ana Marquez, another one of the sponsored pros by 888, or one of the ambassadors, she went deep in one of the early big buy or low buy and big field tournaments. I'm trying to remember.
The Millionaire Maker, right?
The Millionaire Maker.
I think she finished just off the final table in that one.
11th or something like this. And in fact, I came upon Vivian kind of talking, Anna down, because they were both just explaining, that it's so devastating to be so close, because, when you make $15,000, it's one thing for you, but the possibility of making $1 million is going to change your entire poker career, your poker life, not just the accolade, not just the bracelet, the money, the whole thing. It's just, it's such a huge difference. And I, for one, am so excited for Vivian. I hope that she can make a deep run, if not ship this one. I think it would be so sick for the 888 people if that happened. And I like to see, Vivian's a player who I remember when she got sponsored a couple years ago, a lot of people were like, who is this girl? She had like 300 followers. I don't know that many people, recognized her outside of being like a gorgeous woman. I think she went super deep in one of the PLO events and at the WSOP, and people started noticing her. But I have to say a huge props to 888 for seeing the talent that maybe everybody else didn't recognize right away. And what a giant, take that. Did I see my homie in there? Did I see my homie just like a little pop of his head come up?
Oh, yeah. You saw Buddy pop up. Yeah, he's like, Buddy's, he's got a little cone on his head because he's got a little under eye issue. So, he's fighting the good fight.
Oh,
but
Buddy the trash dog.
But he's good. Yeah. He hates when you call him that, Sarah. Come on.
I know, but I'm like, my heart's always with Moose. I'll never stop.
Out of love. Yeah. Well, anyways, speaking of Ana Marquez, I think we should jump to this now. Ana Marquez finished third at the Party Poker Millions event at Aria, the 10K buy-in. She took home $445,000. So she's had an absolutely fantastic summer. You mentioned her run in the Millie Maker, and this 10K field was absolutely stacked with a bunch of superstars. It's Tom Marchese taking it down for a cool $1 million. He beat Jeremy Osmus heads up. The final table included Freddie Deeb, Sergio Aido, Rainer Kempe, another German guy who I'm not familiar with, and Chris Moneymaker finished in ninth for $80,000. A very nice run for the 2003 World Series of Poker main event champion. They played the final table in the table one room at Aria, formerly known as Ivy's room. So that's kind of cool that they brought the final table in there. It's probably not the best rail experience if you have a big rail because it's kind of a small room, but I like kind of what they did there.
That's just like an absolutely ridiculous final table. And we did a podcast with Ana before the WSOP started this year. We also did a regular just video, and she could not have been more clear that she's been studying really hard, that she was ready for the main event this year, that she'd gone through some sort of emotional struggles, breakups, and she just basically said, I've been dealing with a lot of codependency and depression and all these different types of things. And then she said, but now I'm just I'm fully focused on poker. This is all I'm thinking about. And she's like, I'm going to win the main event. And of course, as somebody in the media, I'm like, okay, cool. Every single person that puts $10,000 down on the main event. But I'm so happy. I mean, whether or not, it's the main event or these other accomplishments for her this summer, I think either way, she's going to walk out knowing that all the work that she put in made a huge difference.
That's
also,
cool
can we say Chris Moneymaker? We've been talking about this, right? Oh, respected by the peers. Can he really be in the Hall of Fame?
Oh,
blah, blah, blah.
There we go.
This is a sick field, and he still, manages to make a splash. So I say take that to those who said that Chris Moneymaker can't be on the level with his peers.
There we go.
On the
level.
We go. Right now. Yeah.
Boom.
Let's talk a little bit about last time we left off. We were looking at the 10K PLO8. And This was Nick Schulman. Am I right?
It was Nick Schulman's event. They ran through the field pretty quickly. That was one of our broadcasts on CBS All Access. Props to Nick Schulman, by the way, a true broadcast professional. We taped an interview at the beginning of play. And then, our producer Pat says, there was a beeping sound in the background. Do you think Nick would do the interview again? And I'm like, yeah, I know he would. I hate to bother him right before this final table, but he was cool. He was perfect. And I was really happy to see him win. This bracelet, I think bracelets carry a bit more weight to them when they're in a 10K championship on one of these variants, like the 10K PLO8, especially considering you had, Bryce Yockey in the final 8, Chris Vitch finished 5th, Joe Hashem finished 3rd, speaking of former main event champs. Brian Hastings and Schulman just went to war in a long heads-up battle. But for Schulman to do it, his third bracelet, his first bracelet as a father, which you could tell afterwards clearly meant a lot to him. I mean, you called it, Sarah, this the summer of, kind of everybody growing up and, family becoming more and more important to everybody. A lot of new fathers out there, Nick Schulman being one of them. He takes that tournament down for more than $460,000. So pretty cool.
So sick. And in Event 66, we saw David ODB Baker take down the 1500 limit hold'em event. And obviously there's been a lot of talk about ODB because he sort of was helping the WSOP staff to restructure some of the especially mixed game events, like the high variance mixed games specifically. And, then of course he ends up being the person who's taking all the flack for people's irritations about the event. And he couldn't have been more clear about, okay, this is what I said needs to happen. This is what people wanted to happen. Whether or not it takes 4 days or not, up to you guys. But I'm super happy to see him taking this bad boy down. I think it wasn't just this too. There's been 2 or 3 other sort of dramas that he has found himself in the middle of, and he's never afraid to just say what he thinks. And I really appreciate and value that from him. But I would say he put in extra hours of work in some ways in the Twitter world that other people did not put in this summer. So big congrats to him. And yeah, I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, I think the World Series of Poker means so much to a guy like David ODB Baker. So everybody kind of has a smile on their face when they see him running deep, when they see him win a tournament. In this 1500 limit event, going into day 3, I think he had almost 1.3 million in chips, and second place had 450,000 in chips or something. So just an absolutely massive chip lead. And he just kind of coasted the whole way through. He was a very accomplished player in all the mixed games, limit hold'em being one of them. It's been 7 years in between bracelets. He finished 3rd in the 10K horse this year. He was close, or 10K stud. Finished 3rd in the 10K stud to Negreanu and Hennigan. So he was close, and he gets it done for $161,139 in bracelet number 2.
Man, so sick. And I was just looking, Brian Kim, too, who's runner-up. I thought that he was deep also in the monster stack, who's a friend of mine, but there's about 800 Brian Kims on Henging Mob. Yeah. So really hard to confirm. But again, we also had Chris Ferguson at this final table. We really, when I'm looking at all the final tables, there's at least 2 or 3 super well-known, super sick players at really any of these tournaments that we're looking at. Every time we just, skip over who else is there. Even talking about Vivian Sliba in the final 10, Mark Radoja is still in. That it's definitely, I think, a pretty consistent affirmation that if you're looking for some really tough competition in the poker world, just get to a final table at a WSOP event and you'll most surely have some stiff competition on your hands. And then I was just looking at the who's won in the last week, and it looks like Yekui Zhu is runner-up in Event 63, the 1500 Omaha Mix, and also runner-up in the 10K 7-card stud high-low 8 or better, like the 10K championship. Can you imagine getting that close 2 times to a bracelet? What the F-balls?
Wow.
What is going on?
Is absolutely brutal. And then he won the 1500 Omaha Mix last year. So then he plays it this year and finishes 2nd. Jumps into the 10K stud high-low and finishes 2nd, winning $238,420. First place winner, we have a double bracelet winner in the 2019 series now, after Robert Campbell takes it down for his 2nd bracelet, winning $385,763. He also won the $1,500 limit deuce to 7 low ball triple draw event a couple weeks ago. So quite the summer for Campbell. I like this quote from him when he was talking about heads up play and how he ran against Zhu. He said, quote, "More than pure. Whatever that next phase is after pure. It was really sick. I felt like, holy fucking shit, man. He just got barbecued. That poor man. It was outrageous. Even when I lost, I won. That's how sick I ran." That's pretty good.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
Just got barbecued.
That's so good. And that, I think, should take us to, which of course you already have in the outline. Let's talk a little bit then about the player of the year. We've been talking about the multiple bracelets. Who's going to win the multiple bracelets? Seems like last summer was the summer of multiple bracelets. This summer is the summer of people who never had a bracelet but should have one getting them. Well, welcome. We're coming back. We've got a multiple bracelet winner finally. And does that just snap put him ahead for player of the year?
It does. Official standings are not updated yet, but that will give him a lead of about 100 points over Dan Zach, about 200 points over Phil Huey, Sean Deeb, Anthony Zeno, Scott Clements, Peshka De Silva, Chris Ferguson, still very much alive and in the mix, Ari Engel as well. So unfortunately, Sarah, I say unfortunately, I'm not sure what to think about it actually. Is this race going to come down to Europe again? Which I think is a very, should the Player of the Year race come down to the 10 events at Europe?
I don't know. We all hate that. I really wish they would just have it over at the end of the summer. And really, the funny thing is it's not actually like it. I mean, really, does it? Maybe 2 more people go to the World Series of Poker Europe.
Oh, right. It's not going to draw more people to Europe except for these 1 or 2 guys that are maybe in the hunt. I would just hate to see somebody have a decent lead. They can't go to Europe for whatever reason, and then they lose Player of the Year strictly because they get 0 points within that 10 bracelet event span. Beautiful casino. I think it's awesome for the World Series to extend throughout the world. It's a great place to be at. I would love a Player of the Series for WSOP Europe. I just think Player of the Year for the World Series means so much. I don't want anybody to be held back just because they cannot go to Europe. Now, if you were to tell me, hey, the top 20 guys are going to Europe, I'd say, cool, extend it. That'll give us something to talk about in late October. That's cool. We kind of extend this World Series of Poker Player of the Year race. I'd be so down with that. But if you were to say, 4 people are going, I'm like, yeah, it takes kind of the pizzazz away.
Agreed. So agreed. And I just saw an interview with Philip Hui Phil said, I am in it for the Player of the Year, and that is what I want now. So we may see a close battle, which doesn't conclude until, 6 months from now, which I also think is just kind of like, wah, wah. Although it's interesting because last week, we were talking a little bit about, gosh, I guess it was 2 days ago. It feels like 1,000 years ago. But we were just talking about the online events, and how weird it would be to have somebody who was winning online events take home the Player of the Year. And I guess that is in one way that we keep it based more on live tournaments is that, once the online events are over for the WSOP mainland, they don't continue on. So maybe that's like one side weird bonus part of the whole thing. But I don't know, guys. I guess the main event makes a big difference. So hopefully we can finish out a sweat by the time the main event is over. If we could just
it's very possible.
Campbell needs a deep run in the main
Right.
event.
Campbell needs another bracelet, but ever since they started putting the World Series more towards the middle of the festival, quote unquote, there's still a lot of events left. I mean, we're on 67-ish or something like that with 90 events this summer. So there's still some room. There's still some time for people to make a run.
And did the WSOP indeed include the final 50K in the Player of the Year points?
Well, that's a good question. I think so, because it is it's a completely open event. So I do believe that is included in the Player of the Year race.
Man, really interesting. Well,
let's
talk a little bit about, as the main event starts today, the mini main event is finishing.
The mini main event drew a field of 5,521 players. Again, that's a 1K on a weekday. This tournament started on Monday with, I think, with no re-entry also, which is, just absurd. It's still somewhat unbelievable, even though we've been talking about these massive fields every other podcast. But that's just sensational. So it was scheduled for a 2-day event. Obviously, with 8 million players, they could not finish it in 2 days. So they will come back today. Again, for those of you who missed it last time, same starting stack, same structure as the main, just from 2-hour levels to 30-minute levels in the mini main. So I think it's a great idea. It's a great kind of warm-up event for everybody. Average stack today is 20 bigs. And that's kind of the way it's been throughout the last day or so, which is perfect for an event like this.
Lula Taylor. I love it. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't really recognize any of these names. Same. In fact, it's a lot of, even we've got a Japan in there. We've got a China, Argentina, Switzerland, Ireland. We're all over town here. So wow. This will definitely be interesting. And honestly, I think that's one of the coolest parts about the main event itself, is that you just really never know who you're going to end up with. It's almost always a very, multicultural, not so much multi-sexual, but a multicultural event. And so
but Sarah's going to host a panel on women in poker.
Yeah, next up, guys.
Every day during the main. Just in case you guys want to stop by and hear her thoughts.
Well, if this is any indication, or if this is indicative in any way of what we can expect from the main event, we know Jeff will be representing from the U.S., but it's always exciting to see a lot of other countries represented there. And speaking of being represented, let's talk a little bit about this Salute to Warriors event, which was a new event, and I thought a fantastic idea. And I just love to see having the charity world be included in the massive behemoth that is the World Series of Poker, when you consider what a huge part charity is of the poker world in general. It just seems like it should be included somehow in the bracelet world.
Yeah, it'd be very easy for the World Series to say, listen, we do our one-drop events every year, so we're good. Thank you very much. But for them to put on this Salute to Warriors $500 buy-in event, which I love, that it's the perfect level for this, and then to take $40 out of each buy-in and donate it to the United Services Organization, the USO, I just think it's important. And it's like, why not? It had 1,723 entries. It's not going to take away too much from any other thing that's going on. It's not going to take too much staff away. It's not going to take too many players away. I just think this is a great event for everybody to be involved in. It's got some huge names, Ben Yu and Mike Sexton. It allows our veterans to come in and play for an event that's tailored to them. It allows us to support our veterans even more and appreciate them even more. I think this is it's, on the one hand, it's a no-brainer. On the other hand, I'm really glad that the World Series put this on the docket this year.
For sure. And when you look at 1,723 entries, this is just continuing to further the idea that this summer is insane. Because for me to think that you could put on, just a charity event somewhere at some point, anytime, and get close to 2,000 entries is totally crazy. I'm traveling all over the world all the time to poker festivals, and to get 900 players is a huge deal. To get 600 players is great. That's what we're hoping for half the time. Reaching guarantees takes 500 maybe, or to see 1,700 players come, and know too that they're putting their own money too is going towards the cause. It's not going into their own pockets. And I have a super special place in my heart for the USO. My husband used to go every year to either Afghanistan or Iraq. I think he went a couple times early on in our relationship. And the things that they do, I think, are sort of it's unusual. It's not just like giving them tools or supplies or goods. It's providing them with joy and entertainment. He would go wrestle with them. He went to movie premieres there. It's the simple things about living at home that I think sometimes we forget to think about, like being able to watch TV, jumping on your Instagram feed or whatever it is, just reminding them of what it's like to be at home and be an American. And I'm a huge supporter of the USO, so I think it's awesome. And of course, we've got Mike Sexton out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you absolutely nailed that. And I do want to clarify. I said $40 of each entry donated to the USO. That is the Caesars portion of your buy-in. So what Caesars would normally make off of your $500 buy-in, they are taking all that money and donating it. It's not like they're pulling it out of the prize pool and the players are choosing to donate that money. This is strictly Caesars Entertainment taking what they normally make from the money, meaning that they're losing money, quote unquote, on this tournament and donating it to the USO, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that's so sick. Especially, I don't know what everyone else knows about what's going down with Caesars, but I'm pretty sure that they don't have a lot
they
of
could
extra
use the money. Yeah.
And I think that's huge. And speaking of just random, I think, news, and for those who have or have not been paying attention, Caesars, it's rumored, did get bought out by another kind of big company. So hopefully that means that we can just keep this thing going for a while more. But they just, if anyone's been to the SLS in Las Vegas, they built it over where the Sahara used to be. I went right before they exploded the Sahara. Am I right? Sorry.
Yeah, RIP Sahara. But they're switching it back to the Sahara.
I
now.
know. So I was so excited to see this. I even went to the auction. So they were auctioning off like all the stuff that was inside the Sahara. And I was like, oh, these are like treasures. I'm such a huge fan of Old Vegas. I lived downtown for 10 years. I'm just a huge lover of the Rat Pack and like the topless girls and the whole nine. I just think that's like, for me, that's the quintessential Vegas. And so I've also been to the SLS. I mean, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. But I thought they were kind of going for like a hip hop crowd or something, or I don't know. It was just like, I was like, this used to be the SLS and you're destroying this sacred ground. But now they're going, or it used to be the Sahara, but now they're going back to the Sahara. And I'm so excited. I hope it does like infinitely better. And if you guys do come back, support the Sahara, support Old Vegas. It's the only way to go.
Yeah, I think this Sahara will look slightly different than the Sahara that you're picturing in your mind. But yeah, might as well go with the name change. And the good news about the World Series of Poker is on its own, it's a profitable business, which is, I guess, becoming harder and harder to find in Las Vegas. So even if Caesars is in trouble, they're always going to have that, or some other corporation is going to see that as a profitable venture. So I think we're safe. We can all breathe deeply. I think the World Series of Poker is here to stay for a very, very long time.
For sure. And especially having now ESPN and CBS and poker. I mean, having the entertainment portion of it and having the television audience out there recognize that this is such a cool and fun event, even for people who aren't there. I think that's indicative of the future of the World Series. I hope it's only going to get bigger. I just wanted to give you a little shout out, Jeff, in case you didn't get this. Mario wanted to say, may the flop be with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Mario. Mm-hmm. Really appreciate that. I'll take the flop and the turn and the river and pre-flop, and I'll take it all.
I'm going to be rooting for you, Jeff. I feel like this one's yours. So let the homies know again where they can follow you should they want to follow all of your WSOP today. Sure.
So at Jeff Platt on Twitter, and then at Jeff Platt 1 on Instagram. If Instagram ever gets back up, then I will be doing some Instagram stories, just updating the chip stack, talking about the table. If by somehow I get picked for a featured table, I will tweet that out.
A girl can dream, a girl can dream.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys can hit me up if you have any news stories. If you've got anything interesting, you see anything going on, you've got interview ideas, let me know at Auntie Chardonnay. Again, a huge shout out to our sponsors, 888 Poker, and good luck to our girl Vivian Saliba, 888 Ambassador, the final day of the Crazy Eights. We appreciate you guys listening. Sorry about all the technical difficulties, but we blame Facebook and Instagram this time. So take that. We're all just going to have to live without our mindless entertainment for one short day. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's like mostly. Anything else we need to say before we go?
No, I think that's perfect. I think you nailed it as always.
All right. Deuces. Good luck, my boy.
Thank you.